Hi, it's Pinkest, and today we will be continuing our serial killer by state series. The state that I have chosen today is going to be Louisiana. Today we will be discussing Mr. Derek Todd Lee. He was born November the 5th, 1968 in St. Francisville, Louisiana. He is known as the Baton Rouge serial killer. He was born the second child of two children to Samuel Ruth and Florence Lee. Beginning at age 9, Lee developed an unusual interest in observing others, sometimes startling Independence residents through his unmoving, still state while doing so. He made a hobby of bird watching, but was also involved in several incidents where he was caught peeping at girls. Now, before his murder charges, Lee had been arrested for stalking women and watching them in their homes. And this is stated just to give you an idea of his previous criminal history before he started committing the murders. On the night of April 19, 1998, 28-year-old Randy Jane disappeared from her home in Zachary, Louisiana. Her house had been stalked several times in the past by Lee during his nightly voyeur prowls. That night, Lee, who had just been laid off from his latest jobs 2 days earlier, he had left his usual hangout at Liz's lounge after an argument with his girlfriend. He then drove to Miss Randy Jane's house, broke into her bedroom, and he attacked her. And after incapacitating her, Lee dragged her to the driveway where she was raped. Her body was never found and disappeared along with her keys and a pair of 5-pound dumbbells. On the morning of January 14, 2002, 21-year-old Geraldine Barra DeSoto was fatally stabbed in her house in Addis. May 31, 2002, 22-year-old Charlotte Murray Pace was fatally stabbed on Baton Rouge's Charlotte Avenue. There are many more victims, but it was just too many and I could not include it all in the video. But he is responsible for upwards of 7+ deaths. Now, Lee's methods varied with each murder. Similarities between the crimes included the removal of cell phones from the victim's belongings and a lack of any visible signs of forced entry into the location where the victim was attacked. Now, one of his methods that he did use was by portraying himself as a homeless person knocking on the citizen's door for help. And after being let inside, he would then assault them. His victims also were predominantly white, with exceptions of Diane Alexander and Danae Cullum, who were black. Police also were able to do a composite sketch of the murderer, which, I mean, look at this. This is like terrifying, honestly. So since the police had DNA of the killer from the victims, Zachary Police Department actually had a DNA sample from him due to a prior murder investigation from like 6 to 8 months before. So when they compared it, it was a match. He ended up being added to America's Most Wanted list, and he was in the top 10 fugitives. And he did try to evade the law. He did take his children out of school before ordering them and his wife to go to Detroit for a while. And Lee traveled through Michigan, Illinois, and finally Georgia via bus. May 27th, after a 5-day manhunt, law enforcement found him hiding in a motel in Atlanta. In August of 2004, Lee was convicted by a jury and sentenced to life imprisonment without parole for the murder of Miss Geraldine DeSoto. And on October the 14th, 2004, he was convicted for the rape and murder of LSU graduate student Charlotte Murray Pace. And he was sentenced to death via lethal injection. He was placed on death row at Louisiana State Penitentiary. On January 21st, 2016, Lee died from complications with heart disease after being transferred to Lane Memorial Hospital in Zachary a few days earlier. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode and let me know what state I should cover next.